If you can't take care of my sister, we're getting a divorce. It's been 2 months since my sister-in-law, Mary, returned from overseas and started living at our house. I felt like she was taking advantage of me every day, and the stress was becoming too much. I decided to talk to my husband about it to see if we could fix the situation, but he got really angry and said he wanted a divorce. I argued that this was a drastic decision, but he wouldn't listen to me. Let's discuss what we should do next, I said. There's nothing to discuss, my sister can stay here as long as she wants, he replied. I felt more and more frustrated as he said this, and I couldn't take it anymore. This led to a big fight. Mary saw what was happening, and instead of helping, she just smiled, as if she enjoyed it. It was clear that she was the cause of our problems. I didn't understand what Mary was thinking. 2 months ago, she had returned from abroad after getting divorced and losing custody of her kids. She was heartbroken and decided to live in a hotel instead of going back to her parents, who would ask too many questions. Soon after, she started visiting our home, claiming she was lonely. One day, after a week of her visiting, I came home from work, and my husband stopped me from going into my own room. Hold on, don't just go in there, he said. I can't have my sister living in a hotel forever, so I let her use this room. He decided that Mary could stay in my room without even talking to me about it first. All my things were still in there. This is a problem. You should have discussed it with me first, I said. Why are you being so selfish? Just let her make herself at home. She's been through a lot, losing her marriage and her kids, he replied. His words made me feel guilty, as if I was the one in the wrong. I stayed quiet, unsure of what to say. He then told me to always knock before entering my room. After that, Mary started treating my room like it was hers and began acting like I was her maid. You came home late. I'm hungry, so hurry up and make me dinner, she demanded. I had already prepped a meal, so I told her it would be ready soon. I'll be playing a game in my room, so call me when it's ready, she said. When I knocked on her door to let her know dinner was ready, she came out and frowned at the food. I don't like pasta. I can't eat this. Make me a steak with sides, she said. I don't have the ingredients for that, and it will take too long to make. Then just order takeout, she replied. I've already cooked pasta for 3, please just eat that for today. No way, order takeout now. I felt stuck. My husband insisted that I should just go along with Mary, but I didn't know what to do. If I shared my feelings, he told me to think about Mary's feelings, which made it hard for me to respond. Mary, knowing her brother was on her side, started waking me up in the middle of the night. I want ice cream, go buy it now. What time is it? It's 2 a.m., I said. The convenience store at the gas station should be open. Come on, get up, she insisted. I was just about to fall asleep. I have work tomorrow, so I needed a break. Whenever I said no to Mary, she would run to my husband and tell on me. This meant I got scolded and had to go get ice cream in the middle of the night. Mary never helped with cleaning up after meals or any chores around the house. Instead, she demanded that I clean her room every day. Just to be clear, her room was actually my room, which she had taken over. Her requests kept getting worse, and now she was asking me for money. Sorry, that's not possible. If you need money, ask your brother, I told her. I can't believe you're refusing. I'm going to tell my brother again. Are you okay with that? She said. I had been following her orders because I felt sorry for her situation, but I knew that if I gave her money now, she would just keep asking for more in the future. So, for the first time, I stood my ground and refused to let her boss me around. When my husband got home from work, Mary cried and told him I had upset her. Catherine, why did you make my sister cry? He asked. I didn't make her cry, I just said no when she asked for money. She doesn't do any chores and treats me like a maid. I'm emotionally exhausted. It's been over 2 months since she moved in. Can't you do something about it? He shouted back, shut up. If you can't take care of my sister, we're getting a divorce. My husband was furious and insisted on a divorce. I argued that this was too extreme, but he wouldn't listen. I suggested we have a proper discussion about what to do next, but he said there was nothing to discuss. His sister would stay in our house as long as she wanted. I felt my frustration grow as he casually said this. I couldn't handle it any longer, and our argument escalated. Mary watched us and didn't try to help. Instead, she smirked, clearly pleased with the chaos she had caused. I had no idea what Mary was thinking when she said, I'm going to make you regret this. My name is Catherine, and I'm 27 years old. Right now, I feel like I'm being manipulated by my sister-in-law. My parents divorced when I was young because of my dad's cheating. After that, my mom raised me alone, but she passed away from breast cancer when I was 19. Since then, I've had friends, but the loneliness of not having family has always been there. I've kept that loneliness hidden. During that time, I met my husband, Bob. After being together for a year, we got married 3 years ago. The excitement of our early days has faded, but I have been thankful for the family I gained. However, recently, Bob lost his interest in work, quit his job, and now only works part-time 3 days a week. This added to my worries, especially with Mary entering our lives. When Bob and I got married, Mary was living abroad and was already pregnant with her first child, so she couldn't attend our wedding. We never got to meet because we lived so far apart. I had always heard from my mother-in-law that Mary was kind and considerate, so I never expected her to be so selfish. Her behavior left me confused and frustrated. The day after our big argument, I came home from work, and Mary was grinning, holding a handful of cash. The amount seemed way too big to have come from Bob. "Mary, where did you get all that money?" I asked. "I sold some bags and jewelry I found in the bedroom," she said. "Wait, you mean my room? Where else would they be?" She laughed. I rushed into my room and checked my closet, but my mother's heirloom bags and jewelry were gone. "Why did you sell my things?" I demanded. "Because you wouldn't give me any allowance," she replied nonchalantly. "Those were family heirlooms." "Good, you didn't need them anymore," she said with a smirk. "That's not the point. Where did you sell them? Tell me now." "Chill out. I sold them at this place called Super Thrift Shop, but good luck getting them back." I quickly headed to the thrift shop to buy back my things. Since she had just sold them, I thought I could still get them back. When I arrived, I learned some shocking news. They had a rule that only the person who sold the items could buy them back unless there was proof that they were stolen. Without evidence, I was stuck and could do nothing. I knew about the thrift shop's rules, but I was so upset that I forgot about them. As I walked home, I felt a strong desire for revenge against my sister-in-law. I decided I would get to the bottom of this, starting by cleaning my room. Another week passed, and I was still at the mercy of my demanding sister-in-law, putting up with my husband's anger along the way. Finally, it felt like the moment for a showdown had come. Like any other day, Mary treated me like a maid, and my patience was wearing thin. As evening approached, I ended up arguing with Bob. "I can't keep living like this. If you don't treat my sister better," I started. "Are you threatening me with divorce again?" he interrupted. "If you don't change your attitude toward Mary, I might have to," I said. Lately, it felt like Bob thought that bringing up divorce would make me stay quiet and obey him. He always looked down on me with arrogance, while Mary stood next to him, laughing. Then, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and found my mother-in-law standing there. "Long time no see, Catherine. Can I come in?" she asked. "I'm happy you came. Please come in," I replied. "Mom, why are you here?" I asked, noticing that Bob's expression darkened when he saw her. Mary didn't look happy either. She didn't even smile at the visit. I was confused about why she wasn't excited to see her own mother. "Oh, I didn't know you had a friend over," my mother-in-law said when she saw Mary. "What are you talking about? She's your daughter, isn't she?" I replied. "Oh, stop joking. Mary just had her second child. She even sent me some photos recently," my mother-in-law said, pulling out her phone. She showed me a picture of the real Mary, who was still happily married overseas. The woman in the photo looked completely different from the person claiming to be Mary standing in front of us. As the woman tried to leave the living room, my mother-in-law firmly stopped her. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Well, I am a friend," the woman stammered. "Yeah, she's my friend," Mary quickly added, but it was clear they were both panicking. That's when I revealed her true identity. "So you aren't Mary after all. I always thought it was odd. You must be Bob's mistress." "What are you talking about? Don't spout nonsense," she shouted. I couldn't let Bob deceive us any longer. I immediately showed my mother-in-law a video on my laptop that captured him and the woman getting cozy in our living room. Bob tried to grab the laptop from his mother to stop her from seeing it, but I stopped him. "What is this?" my mother-in-law asked, looking shocked. "You better have a good explanation," she warned. Bob hesitated, so I stepped in to explain everything. "This woman, who claims to be Mary, has been staying at our house for over 2 months. Bob let her live here out of pity because she went through a divorce and lost custody of her child. On top of that, she sold my mother's heirlooms at a thrift shop without my permission. The video showed this woman happily talking about how she made money selling my mother's heirlooms. She even suggested to Bob that they should go out and have fun with the money. How could she do something so awful? My mother-in-law said, looking furious. What happened to the heirlooms? She asked. They can only return them to the person who sold them, so they are currently at the thrift shop, I replied. Then, I turned to the woman, who looked very uncomfortable. You are Megan Foster, aren't you? No, you're wrong. Don't make baseless accusations. Do you have any evidence? She said defensively. It's pointless to pretend you're innocent. You may not know, but I'm the manager of the super thrift shop, I said. Huh? I didn't see you there, she stammered. I wasn't at the shop when the heirlooms were sold because I was at a meeting at headquarters. As the manager, I can verify the ID of the person who sold the items, I explained. I realized that the woman was not my sister-in-law, but I didn't have enough proof. I worried she might come up with excuses, so I made a plan. My mother-in-law had been wanting to see a performance by her favorite artist, so I decided to buy tickets for her. The plan was to invite her to pick up the tickets and stay the night so she wouldn't have to travel back home right after. She was thrilled, and that's how we ended up in this situation. I'm sorry for making you come here without telling you the truth, I said. That's all right. I understand it's not easy for you to talk about this. By the way, how did you manage to capture the footage? My mother-in-law asked. I didn't want my belongings to be sold without my permission again, so I installed hidden cameras that look like light bulbs in my room. While cleaning, I had a feeling she might be having an affair, but I never expected anything like this, I explained. Sure enough, the footage showed the two of them getting intimate when I wasn't home. It was shocking to see. Bob and I had been arguing a lot, and I had started to think it might be time to end things, but it's still tough to see your husband cheating. Catherine, I was just being manipulated by this woman, Bob exclaimed. How pathetic of you to say that. Lying about her being your sister and letting her stay in our house? What were you thinking? I yelled at Bob. Don't blame this on me. I only pretended to be your sister because if we got caught having an affair, I would be kicked out with nowhere to go. You told me it would be convenient for me to use your wife as a housemaid. You even said if you got divorced because of marital issues, you wouldn't have to pay alimony. I was taken aback and filled with rage upon hearing this. Now that your relationship has fallen apart, it's impossible to fix things between you two. Why don't you just get a divorce? You and I can be happy together, right, Bob? You've always wanted to divorce me, so let's part ways. I handed Bob the divorce papers I had already filled out with my name. He started to panic. Don't rush things. I don't want to leave you. Just let this slide. Seeing Bob begging on his knees was pathetic. His mistress, looking teary-eyed, said, You won't abandon me, will you? I have nowhere else to go if you kick me out of here. Shut up. Don't come near me, Bob shouted as he brushed her off. Her desperate pleas were uncomfortable for me to watch. Instead of focusing on Bob, I conveyed something important. You don't have to worry about where to go. Huh? What do you mean? I reported you to the police earlier for stealing and selling my belongings. They should be arriving any minute. As the sound of police sirens grew louder, the woman realized the situation. I'm really sorry. I've learned my lesson. I won't do it again. If apologizing was all it took, then we wouldn't need the police, would we? I said, presenting her to the police as the one who stole my belongings. She was soon taken away. Bob, staring blankly at the scene, began to beg again. Don't leave me. Your salary is higher than mine. If you abandon me, I won't survive. You understand that, right? You don't have to live a lavish lifestyle. Besides, you need to work more than just 3 days a week. You'll have to work more to pay me alimony. I'll pay the alimony, but can't we find a way to avoid a divorce? No chance. My mind is made up. Sign the divorce papers now. With my mother-in-law urging him, Bob reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Hey, about the alimony, can you deduct it from our division of assets? He asked. There are no assets we built together. My savings are from before we got married, so they're not for us to split. I've been covering most of our living expenses since we got married, so I'm in the red. Bob turned pale upon hearing this, but my mother-in-law and I ignored him and kicked him out of the house. After getting rid of the villain, a sense of sadness lingered that evening. My mother-in-law and I sat together, sharing drinks and having a heartfelt conversation. I got back my mother's heirloom bags and jewelry with enough proof that they had been stolen. My divorce from Bob was finalized quickly. I demanded $20,000 each in alimony from Bob and his mistress. Bob was disowned by his in-laws and broke up with his mistress, who had been released from jail. They constantly argued after that. My mother-in-law, worried about me being alone, reached out to me regularly. Through this experience, our bond grew stronger than ever. Fast forward 3 years, and I stood in a chapel wearing a wedding dress. I held the hand of the man who had eagerly waited for me to walk down the aisle, as we vowed to love each other forever. I felt tears of happiness rolling down my cheeks.
It was a calm evening at home until the phone rang and changed everything. Marcus and I were having dinner, salmon and roasted potatoes I cooked, when his phone started buzzing. He looked at the screen and froze. "Who's calling?" I asked. "It's Selena," he said with a serious look. Selena, his 19-year-old daughter from his troubled first marriage, whom he hadn't spoken to in years. My heart sank. This couldn't be good. Marcus answered the call, and I watched his face closely as he listened, his expression showing worry. After a short conversation, he hung up and let out a deep sigh. "What did she want?" I asked, preparing myself. "She's coming to live with us. Her roommate kicked her out, so she's driving here tomorrow." I dropped my fork, suddenly losing my appetite. "Here? How long?" "She didn't say, but it seems like she's planning to stay for a while," Marcus replied. Panic gripped me. We had worked so hard to create a stable life together. Both of us came from broken families filled with lies and betrayals. It took years of therapy and trust building to heal those wounds. The last thing we needed was a troubled 19-year-old causing more chaos. "Can't her mom take her?" I suggested. Marcus shook his head. "You know how bad things are between them since the divorce." Before I could protest further, we heard the front door open. Our 16-year-old son, Eli, came in from basketball practice, his sweaty hair damp. "Hey, Mom, Dad, what's going on?" he asked, sensing the tension in the room. Marcus managed a weary smile. "We just heard from your sister Selena. She's going to be staying with us for a while." Eli looked surprised. He knew little about Selena beyond the few difficult stories Marcus had shared over the years. Okay," Eli said cautiously. "How long is she going to be here?" "We're not sure yet," Marcus admitted. A tense silence settled over the room, and I could sense the worry spinning through Ellie's mind. Selena's sudden arrival threatened the stability he cherished, but he was too compassionate to voice his concerns. I reached out and squeezed his hand reassuringly before turning to Marcus with determination. "We need to establish clear rules," I insisted. "No taking advantage or expecting a free ride. If she stays here, she has to find a job and contribute." Marcus agreed. "You're right. I'll make sure she understands that when she gets here." As we tidied up after dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that Selena's return wouldn't bring anything positive. The past has a way of resurfacing, no matter how tightly you try to seal it away. The next morning, I woke with a sense of unease. Today was the day Selena would arrive. Marcus had prepared the small guest room for her, though I doubted she'd be pleased with the cramped space. During breakfast, Marcus attempted to reassure Eli. "Don't worry, I'm sure Selena has matured a lot since I last saw her. Let's try to make her feel welcome." Eli nodded, but his apprehension was clear. Around noon, the sound of a car pulling up outside caught our attention. "That must be her," Marcus announced. My heart raced as we approached the front door. A blonde girl emerged from a worn-out hatchback packed with clothes and boxes. She looked nothing like the withdrawn, skinny 13-year-old I remembered from years ago during the divorce hearings. She had grown tall and attractive, dressed in trendy clothes with skillfully applied makeup. However, her bright smile didn't seem to reach her eyes. Marcus greeted her with an awkward hug. "Welcome home, Selena." "Thanks, Daddy," she replied sweetly, though she hadn't made an effort to stay in touch since the divorce. "It's great to see you again." Over the next hour, Selena brought in her belongings, stacking them in the small guest room. Despite the limited space, she refused Marcus's offers to help, sharply instructing him not to touch her things. So much for her growing up, I thought to myself. During dinner, Selena dominated the conversation, talking mostly about herself and subtly making jabs at me. "I can't believe you're still working as a nurse, Lena. Wouldn't you rather do something more interesting?" I held back my response. Nursing was my passion, but Selena clearly didn't respect it. When Eli shared his plans to apply for college scholarships, Selena scoffed. "Good luck getting enough money to go to a decent school." Eli looked hurt. I knew how much effort he had put into maintaining his straight A's and excelling in sports. After dinner, I pulled Marcus aside. "We need to establish some rules for Selena," I insisted. "We can't tolerate this entitled behavior." He sighed. "You're right. I'll talk to her." But in the following days, nothing changed. Selena continued to behave disrespectfully, refusing to find a job or help with anything around the house. My patience wore thin. Then came the breaking point. One evening after work, I returned home to find Selena gone and Eli sitting alone, looking pale. "What's wrong?" I asked him. My heart sank as Eli revealed what had happened. Selena had stolen his laptop and emptied his money jar, which held over $500 he had saved from his job. Eli looked devastated. Anger surged through me. That money represented years of Eli's hard work and dedication. When Selena finally returned, I confronted her. "Give back Eli's money and his laptop right now," I demanded. She smirked dismissively. "Or what? You'll kick me out." I wanted to react impulsively, but I knew violence wouldn't solve anything. Selena's toxic behavior was tearing apart our family, and I knew I had to protect us, even if it meant making a difficult decision about Marcus's daughter. Right then, I resolved that Selena had to leave. When Marcus arrived home, I wasted no time in telling him what Selena had done. She stole from her own brother after we welcomed her into our home. "I want her out, Marcus. Today," I insisted firmly. Marcus looked torn. "I know Selena's actions are unacceptable, but she's still my daughter. If we kick her out now, she'll have nowhere to go. So we just let her keep taking advantage of us," I exclaimed. "She's manipulating you, Marcus. Can't you see that?" "Please give me a little more time to talk to her," Marcus pleaded. "I believe with some clear boundaries, Selena can change." I sighed in frustration. Marcus's paternal instincts were clouding his judgment about Selena's behavior, but I knew I had to handle this delicately to avoid straining our marriage. "Okay," I relented. 1 week. If Selena's behavior doesn't show significant improvement by then, she has to leave. Marcus reluctantly agreed to give Selena more time, hoping against hope that she would change. But my hopes were quickly dashed as Selena's behavior spiraled out of control over the next few days. She stayed out all night partying, slept until noon, and even helped herself to my jewelry, dismissing my demands for her to find a job with arrogant remarks about living rent-free. Things reached a breaking point one evening when I found her smoking on the couch. When I confronted her, she brazenly blew smoke in my face and defied me, claiming I had no authority over her. I felt sickened by Selena's manipulative behavior. She knew exactly how to push my buttons while putting on a sweet act for Marcus. But the final straw came when I received a call from my credit card company about a suspicious $2,000 charge at a luxury store in Leh. It was clear Selena had used my card without permission, racking up more debt in a week than Eli and I spent on groceries in a month. When Marcus returned home, I couldn't contain my rage any longer. "Your daughter is tearing us apart. I want her out of this house tonight," I demanded, trembling with anger. Marcus looked worn down. "You're right. I wanted to believe Selena could change, but she's completely out of control. It's either her or me, Marcus," I stated firmly. "Choose carefully." He pulled me into a comforting hug. "You and Eli will always come first. I just hope we can get through this without tearing our family apart." We gathered with Selena, and Marcus firmly told her she had to leave immediately. She exploded in anger, hurling insults and accusations. I remained quiet, letting Marcus handle his distraught daughter. When Selena stormed off to pack, Marcus slumped in defeat. "I'm so sorry I brought this chaos into our home," he lamented. "You and Eli mean everything to me. No matter how long it takes, we'll heal from Selena's influence." I squeezed his hand, finding solace in his resolve. With unity, we would overcome this trial. Selena's destructive behavior wouldn't break our family. The weeks following Selena's departure were tense. Marcus attempted to reach out to her multiple times, but she refused to respond. I knew he wrestled with guilt, blaming himself for her actions. I reassured him we had made the right decision. Selena had wreaked havoc like a tornado. We changed the locks and dealt with the fallout from my stolen credit card, thankfully resolved with the bank's support in reversing the fraudulent charges. Gradually, our lives returned to normalcy. My heart sank as I opened the letter, shattering the fragile peace we had started to rebuild. It was from a bank I didn't recognize, thanking me for opening a new credit account. Panic set in as I read through the attached paperwork. Someone had fraudulently applied for a $155,000 personal loan in my name, forging my signature, money that had already been deposited into an unknown account. The implications were staggering. This amount of debt could devastate our family, and there was only one person I suspected could do such a thing. When Marcus returned home, I thrust the letter into his hands. "Your daughter is trying to ruin us. We need to call the police right away." His eyes widened in shock as he scanned the letter. My God, I knew Selena had issues, but identity theft? He sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "This is all my fault. I failed her as a father." My anger towards Selena began to soften as I saw how deeply Marcus was affected by her betrayal. Sitting beside him, I placed a hand on his shoulder. You did everything you could for her in such difficult circumstances. Some people just refuse to change. Now we have to focus on protecting ourselves and Eli. Will you call the police to report the fraud?" Marcus sighed heavily but nodded. "You're right. I need to do the responsible thing, no matter how painful." We spent an agonizing hour on the phone with the police and the bank, filing reports about Selena's crime. It was surreal to think that the sweet girl I had seen in Marcus's wedding photos could turn into such a heartless criminal. The bank investigator informed us that the loan had been taken out locally, suggesting Selena was still nearby. The thought sent chills down my spine. That night, as we lay in bed, I turned to Marcus. "We'll work with the bank to invalidate that loan. They believe we're the victims in this." "I hope you're right," Marcus murmured, his voice heavy with worry. "Because if not, this could ruin us financially. We might even lose the house." The unspoken fear hung thick between us. Selena wasn't satisfied with just tarnishing her father's trust. She seemed determined to dismantle our entire family, no matter the cost. As I finally drifted off to sleep, I repeated a silent mantra. Selena's schemes couldn't touch us, no matter how hard she tried. Goodness and truth would prevail, but beneath the surface a cold anger simmered. If Selena continued to threaten my loved ones, I was prepared to do whatever it took to stop her. In the following weeks, there was no word from Selena. The bank's investigation into the fraudulent loan bought us some time before any debts were due. Police attempts to locate her proved fruitless. Selena had vanished without a trace, leaving Marcus to comb through online records in a desperate search for clues. It was clear she knew how to evade capture, an adept manipulator and elusive figure. Then on a sunny Saturday, our world shifted once more. Marcus was away at a teaching conference for the weekend, so Eli and I decided to catch a movie together. But upon returning home, a sense of dread washed over me immediately. The front door stood open. Heart pounding, I hurried inside, Eli right beside me. "Wait in the hall," I instructed Eli firmly. If Selena was inside, I wanted to shield him from any danger. Moving cautiously, I entered the dimly lit rooms. At first glance, nothing appeared out of place. Then I reached Ellie's bedroom. The sight was devastating. Drawers thrown open, mattress overturned, and the closet in disarray. Eli rushed in beside me, gasping in disbelief. That's when I noticed the paper on his bed, scrawled with a mocking message. "College fund gone. Oops, better start bussing tables, loser brother." Anger surged through me, blurring my vision. The college fund Marcus and I had painstakingly saved for Ellie's future, nearly $20,000, was stolen. Selena had callously used it for her own needs while leaving hurtful insults for her brother, whom she had never bothered to know. I heard a choked sob from Eli, his face drained of color, tears welling in his eyes. "All the money you saved up for me, gone." I hugged my kind, hard-working son, feeling heartbroken for him. "We'll find a way through this," I promised, but inside, I was furious. That money was meant to help Eli have a better life, but Selena had taken it all away without any care. When Marcus came home, he was devastated by the break-in and Ellie's loss. My usually calm husband was furious, just like me. Our savings were gone, our home broken into, and our son hurt for no reason. It was too much. Selena needed to face consequences before she hurt more innocent people. The next evening, ignoring Marcus's warnings, I drove to the old motel where people said Selena was staying. I found her beat-up car parked outside. I knocked on her door until she opened it, smirking when she saw me. "Well, if it isn't Saint Lena, here to lecture me about morals." I slapped her hard across the face. "You're a terrible person," I said angrily. "Didn't ruining our lives once satisfy you?" Selena's smirk disappeared. "You'll pay for that," she snapped, trying to attack me. We struggled briefly before I pushed her back inside and slammed the door in her angry face. I walked away, shaking but determined. Today, Selena's reign of terror ended one way or another. I had given her chances to change, but some people are rotten to the core beyond redemption. Trying to save them risks dragging yourself down too. Selena had shown herself to be heartless and incapable of doing any good. Now it was time to cut her out of our lives for good before she could hurt us again. In the weeks that followed, I nervously waited for Selena's revenge. Marcus tightened security around our house. I kept Eli home from school, afraid to leave him alone until Selena was caught. But as time went on without any sign of her, we started to relax. Maybe she had realized she couldn't stay in town without facing consequences for what she'd done. Late one night, I woke up to blaring fire alarms. Marcus and I rushed to Ellie's room and found it filled with smoke, flames climbing up one wall. We grabbed Eli and hurried outside just before the fire consumed his bedroom. While firefighters put out the blaze, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was no accident. Selena had made a final desperate move for revenge. The police investigation confirmed my suspicions. Traces of gasoline had been found on one side of the house, deliberately set alight. It was a chilling realization that Selena had intended to destroy us as we slept, if not for our timely awakening. Marcus looked exhausted as he spoke to the investigators. Our daughter, Selena Rogers, is your prime suspect for arson. She's already committed identity theft and burglary against us. This fire was her latest attempt to harm my family. After discovering Selena was committing more serious crimes, the police finally took action. They got security camera footage showing someone in Selena's car leaving the area just before firefighters arrived. Arrest warrants were issued for Selena, and her name and photo were shown in the news as a dangerous criminal. Marcus even asked Selena to surrender, promising she'd get a fair trial. But Selena stayed hidden, leaving us stuck in uncertainty, fearing she might strike again. I stayed indoors with Eli, keeping a rifle and fire extinguishers close by. She had already taken so much from us, I wouldn't let her take our peace of mind too. Then one evening I got a surprise call from the detective leading the case, urgently telling me, "You need to check the news now. They just caught Selena Rogers." I rushed Marcus and Eli to the TV, our hands shaking. The news showed Selena in handcuffs outside a pawn shop, stolen things from our house scattered around her, jewelry and electronics. She cursed and spat at reporters while police put her in a car. Selena had thought she couldn't be caught, but she slipped up and got caught red-handed. Reporters talked about Selena's shocking crimes against her own family. Her reputation was ruined, and everyone saw the real monster behind her pretty face. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. That night, with Selena locked up and our home safe, we finally slept peacefully. The coming weeks would be hard, cleaning up the mess Selena made, but the worst was over. Her lies couldn't hurt us anymore. A new day had come, full of hope and promise. In the weeks after Selena was arrested, life slowly returned to normal. With Selena facing serious charges in jail, the heaviness that had burdened our home began to lift. I took Eli out to celebrate his birthday at his favorite restaurants, and Marcus and I spent evenings reminiscing about happier times before Selena came into our lives. We started making plans to repair the fire damage and recover financially. But looming court dates brought anxiety. Marcus struggled with the thought of testifying against his own daughter, despite their strained relationship. I tried to stay strong, reminding myself of the pain Selena had caused us. Then came shocking news. Selena had been involved in a violent fight with another inmate in jail and had died as a result. Marcus was devastated. He withdrew into our room for days, grappling with guilt. Meanwhile, I focused on supporting Eli, who, despite everything, felt saddened by the loss of a sister he barely knew. In the following weeks, we learned disturbing details about Selena's final days. The inmate she fought with claimed Selena had boasted about how she enjoyed deceiving people and wished she had stolen even more from us. Hearing Selena's callous words only hardened my resolve. She had shown no remorse for the pain she caused. In the end, her own greed and aggression had led to her downfall. With Selena no longer around, her case quickly fell apart. The bank canceled her fake loan applications, lifting that heavy debt off our shoulders. The police recovered some of our stolen money from her places. Meanwhile, our community rallied behind us once Selena's crimes came to light, offering sympathy and raising funds to help Eli with his college tuition. Their kindness overwhelmed me. After being trapped in Selena's lies and isolation, the support of true friends felt like escaping a nightmare. Marcus felt it too. We weren't alone. Good people could stand against evil together. On the anniversary of Selena's passing, we visited her grave for the first and only time. Marcus knelt beside her simple gravestone, quietly saying a prayer. I stood with Eli, giving him space. "She wasn't always like this," Eli said softly. "Do you think if she had made different choices, she could have found happiness?" I held my wise son close, embracing his insight. Everyone chooses their own path. Selena's led to destruction, but we're moving forward now, into the light. Marcus joined us, his demeanor finally calm. He took my hand with a gentle smile. "Thank you for staying by my side," he said. "Your love guided me through the darkness." Together, we walked away from Selena's troubled legacy toward a future full of promise. In the months following Selena's passing, our family began to heal. We repaired the fire damage, recovered stolen money, and settled debts. Slowly, we reclaimed what Selena had tried to take from us. Yet some wounds ran deeper. I woke from nightmares of fire consuming our home. Marcus withdrew into solitude, wrestling with guilt, while Eli grew more reserved, startled by every sound and keeping his door locked. That's when I suggested we start seeing a family counselor. Initially, Marcus hesitated, feeling ashamed about needing help. But eventually, he agreed that it was essential for us to heal fully. Our counseling sessions became a source of profound release. We discussed feelings of betrayal, violation, and anger. The counselor taught us techniques to manage anxiety and PTSD, encouraging us to express our emotions rather than keeping them inside, which had strained my relationship with Marcus, who tended to brood. Through these sessions, I discovered depths of pain in Marcus that I had not fully understood before. He confessed that part of his desperate attempts to help Selena stemmed from regret over his perceived failures as a father during his divorce. The counselor helped him see that his intentions were misguided rather than malicious, easing his sense of shame. For Ale, the most comfort came from returning to normal routines. He rejoined school sports teams, volunteered at a homeless shelter, and started working part-time at an ice cream parlor. Focusing on these activities and engaging with the community helped him feel more empowered and less helpless. 6 months later, with our counselor's blessing, we decided to put our troubles with Selena behind us. Using the last of the recovered money, we took a family trip to Hawaii. We enjoyed stunning beaches and delicious dinners, free from tension or drama, just cherishing our time together. On our last night, Marcus and I renewed our vows on the beach at sunset, with Eli proudly officiating. Looking at my two incredible men, my heart swelled with love and pride. Selena had tried to tear us apart, but instead, we emerged stronger. While scars remain, we wear them proudly, refusing to let past pain define us. Our family embodies resilience. During the flight home, I wrote a journal entry reflecting on our journey, which I later shared with Marcus and Eli. The past year brought immense challenges but also profound growth. We've grown closer, our wounds turning into wisdom. Selena's actions reopened old wounds and inflicted new ones, but we've stitched ourselves together, becoming stronger. Our imperfect family doesn't just survive, we thrive. Darkness fades, healing begins, and the enduring light remains. Later that week, I stored my journal in a keepsake box. The last remnants of Selena's havoc, court documents, financial statements, police reports, were discarded. Marcus held me close, saying, "It's finally over. Now we can build something beautiful from the ashes." I smiled at him and embraced Eli. The storm had passed. Ahead of us stretched a bright future, and together we would walk forward, facing the light.
He's retiring, so to celebrate, I'm taking our parents to France starting today. I'm borrowing your platinum card for the trip. We're going to enjoy ourselves using your credit card. What a trip. What are you talking about? Exactly what I said. No, I don't understand what you mean by exactly what I said. Please explain. We need to hurry. I understand. We'll leave soon. Sorry, I have to go now. I'll hear the details when I get back. Just one thing though, the credit card won't work. Huh? My jobless husband Parker took my credit card to take our parents on a trip. I've put up with a lot from Parker, but this seems like the perfect chance. I'm going to make sure Parker learns a lesson, and when he returns from the trip, he'll have some big regrets. I'm Lee, a 32-year-old employee at a major company. After graduating from a top university, I landed a great job and have been doing well. Even though I'm only 32, I make enough money to support Parker, who doesn't work, and a child, if we had one. But that's just a possibility. We've been married for 2 years and don't have kids yet, though we're thinking about it. Despite having a good job and income, I'm not happy with my new leave life. The part about having a child is just an idea, but Parker not working is real. I'm not hungry for dinner because I had snacks. That's fine, but what about your job search? I didn't go for an interview today. I just stayed home looking at job websites. Parker quit his job a year ago and has been looking for work since then. Actually, he's been doing part-time jobs but doesn't keep them for long. He starts a job, quits shortly after, relaxes for a while, then looks for another part-time job. You're looking at part-time jobs again, aren't you? I'm looking at both full-time and part-time. Why don't you stop looking for part-time jobs and focus on finding a full-time position? I know, but there is a right time for everything. I wish Parker would find a steady job, but there's a reason he can't be pushed too hard. He quit his last job because of a conflict over work policies with his boss. That boss was notoriously difficult. Parker stood up to him as the office representative with his colleagues' support. But when the conflict escalated, his colleagues sided with the boss, not Parker. As a result, Parker lost his boss's approval, felt betrayed by his colleagues, and found it hard to stay, so he left the company. Parker, dinner's ready. Can you bring it here? After quitting his job, Parker became withdrawn, staying in his room. After about 2 weeks, he began to come out and help with household chores. I'll do the dishes. Really? Thanks. Then it's all yours. Yeah, I've got plenty of time. Parker joked, but his smile didn't seem genuine. Yet, another 2 weeks later, he started looking for a new job. I have an interview today. Is it your top choice? Yeah, I'm going to nail this one and make a fresh start. I'm rooting for you. Do your best. A month after quitting his job, Parker started looking for work more seriously. But even after another month, he couldn't find a job. Why do they keep rejecting me? It's all because of my last company. Don't lose heart. You'll find something good. Of course I'm frustrated. I didn't do anything wrong. Parker may not be completely blameless, but what happened at his previous job wasn't entirely his fault either. However, quitting due to interpersonal issues doesn't impress potential employers. It feels like nothing I do is right anymore. That's not true. You have an interview tomorrow. Let's update your resume. It's pointless. I'm not going to that interview. Repeated rejections took a toll on Parker, and eventually he became defiant. One day, I returned home to find torn-up resumes scattered on the living room floor, knowing his interview hadn't gone well. Carefully choosing my words, I said, "Can you throw that trash in the bin? I'm done." Done with what? Job hunting. We can manage on Layla's income, right? I don't need to work. It was true, we could get by on my salary alone. Some people choose not to work and excel as full-time homemakers, but that wasn't Parker's situation. He seemed to be avoiding reality. Understanding his reluctance after his rough experience at his last job and the fruitless job search, I decided to be patient with him for a while. "Parker, you still haven't found a job. What's your plan?" "I've worked hard in the past. This is just a long break. I'm not just sitting around, I'm preparing for the future." "That's good to hear." Living near my in-laws, Parker's mom, Layla, and dad, Nicholas, started visiting us more after he quit his job. They were probably worried about him. When they heard Parker was preparing for his next job, they seemed relieved, but that was far from the truth. "The beer's running out today. Can you grab some on your way home?" "It's running out again? You drink too much? Try to cut back a bit." "Fine, I won't ask again. I'll get it myself." Parker wasn't studying or job hunting. He spent his days watching TV and drinking beer. He probably didn't want others to know he was unemployed. I decided not to tell my in-laws the truth to spare Parker's feelings, even though he hadn't looked for a job in over 3 months. Finally, I decided to bring it up. "Parker, maybe it's time to start job hunting again. You seem more settled now." "What? It's only been 6 months since my last job. You want me to work again after what happened?" "I just think the break has been quite long." "Stop nagging. You can't understand my feelings when your job is going well. I have my own struggles, you know. Everyone faces work problems and relationship issues. We can work through this together." "I understand. I'll start looking for a job, okay?" Parker walked out during our conversation. My words seemed to have hurt him, but his agreement to job hunt felt like progress. I planned to apologize when he felt better. "I got a job because you pushed me." "That's great. Where?" "At a nearby supermarket. So you'll need to learn and work hard, right?" "It's just part-time. No need to work too hard." "Part-time or not, any job is important. Do you have a problem with that?" I wanted to say more to Parker, but I decided to see how even a small step like this could help him recover. I chose to wait and observe. "I'm home." "Parker, you're back. How's the job at the pub?" "I quit the supermarket part-time." "Why? It hasn't been that long." A college student there was being bossy, always telling me to put the vegetable boxes at the bottom in storage. It felt like harassment. That student was probably just showing Parker how to do the job. In any workplace, even a college student might be more experienced. Parker kept finding and quitting jobs, unable to stick with any. So Parker hasn't been able to keep a job for long, and it's already been a year. "Parker, what job are you doing now?" "I'm working part-time at a pub. I've never worked in food and beverage before, but it's interesting, and I think I finally found my calling." "Really? That's great, but isn't the income from a part-time job in a restaurant kind of low?" "That's fine. I'm currently apprenticing, aiming to go independent." "So, you plan to own your own place someday?" "Exactly. The income's small now, but I'm working hard towards my goal." "Then take this. Treat yourself to something nice for once." Parker still puts on a good show in front of his parents, but as always, it's all lies. He quit the pub job 3 days after this conversation, deceiving everyone and even taking allowance from his parents. This time, I couldn't help but feel disappointed in my husband, so I decided to be firmer than before. "Hey, Parker." "Later, please. I'm at a good part in the movie. You can pause it. I grabbed the remote control from the table, paused the movie, and started a conversation. It's frustrating when you pause at the best part. What is it? Parker, you're 35 now, right? That's prime working age. Don't you think about the future? Spending all day at home, drinking, and just watching TV. The future? There are plenty of 35-year-olds not working. Many people enjoy life without a job. True, work isn't everything, but those people have something else they're dedicated to. Do you have something like that? Yeah. I know you're upset about me not working. I'll look for another part-time job. Parker seems set on only working part-time. Considering his reasons for leaving his job and his struggles with job hunting, I've been careful not to upset him. But it's time for Parker to get back on track. I need to be firmer. One day at work, I received a text from Parker. Dad's retiring, so we're going to France to celebrate starting today. I'm borrowing your platinum card. We're going to enjoy ourselves on your credit card. I panicked and called him immediately. What do you mean, a trip? Just what I said. I don't understand. Just what I said. Please explain. There are so many things wrong here. It's okay to celebrate Nicholas's retirement, but Parker should have talked to me before using my money and borrowing my credit card. More like taking without asking. And why am I paying for a trip to France that I'm not even going on? Parker probably told his parents he paid for it from his savings, my credit card. Just thinking about it makes me so angry, but one thing Parker said stands out. You mentioned borrowing a credit card. Do you mean the one from our house? Yeah, why? I do have a platinum card. Some people think you need a high income for it, but that's not true. Credit history, stable income, and other factors matter, and you can get one in your 30s. It has a high annual fee, but I use it for the benefits and points. However, that credit card is in my wallet. So you took the credit card from home? Yeah, so I'm counting on you for the payment. Parker, excited about his trip to France, spoke to me in a challenging tone. I've been patient with Parker for a long time, but now it seems like the right moment to take action. Parker thinks he's smart for taking my credit card and acting cheerful about it, but he's about to realize otherwise. What are you waiting for? We need to leave. Got it. Sorry, I have to go now. I'll hear the details when I get back. Just one more thing. That credit card you took won't work. What? That can't be right. It's under Lila's name, and it expires this month. It's close, but it shouldn't be an issue. You're lying, right, Lila? You're lying to stop me from using the card, aren't you? That's such an obvious lie. Yes, it does expire this month. That's why I've already received a new credit card. What does that mean? So I have 2 credit cards to use now. Sometimes, when a new card is activated, the old one stops working. I've already started using the new card, so the one you took won't work. What? Are you kidding me? You think I'm lying. If you don't believe me, I can send you the URL to the credit card website, or you can just try using the card. It would be funny to see you try to pay with a card that doesn't work. This credit card really won't work. Hey, hurry up. I hear his parents calling him in the background, but Parker, realizing the credit card won't work, seems too flustered to respond to them. What should I do? I told them I pay for everything except the round-trip travel. Oh, they covered the flight? Yes, Dad felt bad about covering all the trip costs. What should I do? I'm about to take a cab, and I don't even have money for that. That's not my problem. You said you would pay for everything except the flight. Using my credit card in the first place was wrong. You should pay with your own money. How can I? I don't have any money right now, Parker. You haven't been taking work seriously. It's your fault for trying to impress, taking your parents on a trip without any money. I'm at work, so I have to hang up now. I just wanted to tell you about the credit card. Wait. I hung up and returned to work. Parker, unable to pay for even the cab, would have to come clean with his parents. That evening, after I finished work, I received a call from my Leila. I heard from Parker. He tried to use your credit card and lied about working. I'm sorry for the trouble. No, don't apologize, my Leila. I'm sorry for the inconvenience with the credit card. Are you okay with the money? We'll cover the cost of this trip when we return. I'll make sure Parker apologizes and starts looking for a job immediately. I'm sorry, my Leila, but I'm considering divorcing Parker. Divorce? Because of this? It's part of it, but Parker has been taking money from me for a while. What? I stopped giving Parker money to limit his drinking. He got a part-time job and started buying his own alcohol. But his part-time salary wouldn't cover daily drinking. Parker was taking money from my wallet to buy alcohol. He repeatedly took amounts ranging from $4 to $40. Over a year, the total became significant. I hadn't been tough on Parker, hoping he would change, but when he took my credit card for his trip, it wasn't just about $42 anymore. This increase in what he took made me believe he had no intention of changing. I understand. Should I inform Parker about the divorce? Could you just tell him I want a divorce? We'll discuss the rest when he gets home. About an hour later, the next morning after my conversation with Layla, Parker called. He must have learned about the divorce from Layla, though I had asked her to wait until he returned to discuss it. Feeling drained, I chose not to answer his call. When I returned home from work that evening, I found Parker already there. He had cut his trip short. "I'll start working seriously now. Please don't leave me," he pleaded as soon as I entered the living room. Seeing Parker, he'd immediately apologized. His remorse seemed genuine, but it came too late. He had a whole year to change, yet he was asking for another chance now. Despite my repeated warnings, he had wasted every opportunity. I'm not going to give Parker another chance because he gave up on me. My decision is final. Can you leave? Please don't say that. If you won't leave, should I move out? Only if you can afford the rent here. Parker fell silent. He didn't even have the money for next month's rent, let alone any income. My words and the reality of the impending divorce seemed to sink in for him. With nothing to take, Parker appeared to leave the house, likely heading to his parents' place. I briefly considered asking if he had money for transportation, but Parker isn't a child. He should handle his own affairs. Sadly, I watched him go. After leaving our house, Parker went to his parents' home. Later, I received a call from Layla. They allowed Parker to stay for one night, but asked him to leave the next day. They were concerned he might become too dependent on them if he stayed longer. It must have been tough for them as parents to make this decision, but they felt it was necessary for Parker's sake. Cast out by his parents, Parker returned to our house, pleading with me. "Please help me. I've got nowhere to go and no money." That's the result of your own actions. You need to handle this yourself. Everyone faces difficulties, and while it's okay to seek help sometimes, all you've done in the past year is neglect your responsibilities and do as you please. I didn't allow Parker into the house and turned him away from the doorstep. The divorce eventually went through. Parker was hesitant, but with his parents' support, it happened faster than expected. I'm not sure what happened to Parker afterward, but he's likely still moving from job to job and making excuses. I thought I would feel lonely without Parker, but I didn't. His attitude had been stressful, and I was always careful not to upset him. No longer needing to accommodate him, I've been living more comfortably. Unconsciously, our life together was a burden. I'm relieved I didn't let myself get dragged down with him. Now, I can live without having to cater to anyone else. You're not needed anymore, so please go. Why would you say that after everything we've been through? This house is enough. I'm going to live here with my daughter and the others. I worked hard for 15 years to save up and buy this place. I chose a big condo so we could all live together because she wanted to move in. But then my husband stepped in. Why are you surprised? Your job year is done. Thanks for everything up to now. Are you serious? I looked straight at my husband, trying hard to stay calm despite my mixed feelings. Of course, if you don't want to leave, we can get a divorce. Do it quickly. Hearing this, I made up my mind. My husband is unemployed and doesn't understand what would happen if we divorced now. I realized he was a disappointment and I wanted to leave as soon as possible. Understood. If that's how it is, I'll leave. Leave right now, okay? I'd be so happy not to see your face again. They both gave me the ugliest smiles I had ever seen. There was no need to hold back against a husband and mother-in-law like this. I wanted them to feel the consequences immediately, so I sold the high-rise condo right away. My name is Sandra, and I turned 39 this year. I've been married to Robert for 4 years. We used to work at the same company, but we weren't that close. Then 4 years ago, something changed. Huh? Sandra? Robert, is that you? Long time no see. What are you doing here? Actually, I quit my job today. What? Why? I quit because it was finally time to chase a dream I've always had. You know I've been drawing cartoons for a while, right? I finally made my debut. Seriously? That's amazing. Show me sometime. Back then, I didn't have any special feelings for him, but I was happy he praised me. Later, I found out that after quitting the company, Robert started his own business. The last time we saw each other was in our 20s, and at that time, things were going well for me at work. If you're okay with it, why don't we date? That's sudden, isn't it? I think we're really compatible. Robert's confession surprised me, but it didn't feel bad. I was about to turn 35 and thinking about marriage too. But I'm at the age where I want to get married. Then let's get married. What, really? I was overwhelmed by how quickly things were moving. Is that a no? Thank you. Yes. Before I knew it, I had accepted his proposal. I went ahead with it on impulse, and though I was full of anxieties, they proved to be unfounded. You've worked hard here. Want some coffee? Thanks. Another all-nighter? Yeah, the deadline is close. Don't push yourself too hard. Both my marriage and job were going well. In fact, things were so good that I wondered if it was okay for them to be this perfect. Robert understood my work and even took care of household chores when I was busy. There was just one thing that bothered me. By the way, how's work lately? Huh? Oh, it's fine. I had some free time recently. Why? You've been coming home early and doing all the housework. I'm just doing it because I like to. Don't worry about it, okay? We used to talk about work a lot, but for the last few weeks, he hadn't mentioned anything about his job. I believed him when he said everything was okay and didn't ask more questions. Looking back, that might have been a mistake. Before I knew it, nearly 4 years had passed. My job was going well, and there was even talk of turning my work into comics and animations. Then, I started wanting to have our own home. I've been thinking about getting our own place. What do you think? A house? That sounds great. Oh, but is something wrong? Robert looked down with a regretful expression. I prepared myself, sensing something unpleasant was coming. I know this is sudden, but is there any way my mom could live with us? What? Your mother? She's alone now, and I'm a bit worried about her. Since losing my father-in-law 2 years ago, my mother-in-law seemed to have lost her spirit. It felt like there was a big hole in her heart. I was indeed worried about leaving her alone from now on. Okay, but it will take time to build a house. Maybe a condo would be better. Thank you. Just agreeing to live with her is enough for me. You can decide the rest. Then that's what we'll do. So in between work, I visited various condos since we were going to live together. I wanted something spacious and comfortable. I had savings from 15 years of frugal living. A month after starting the search for a condo, I signed the contract. Today, really? What kind is it? This one. I showed my husband the brochure for the condo I had chosen. I was confident he would be pleased. Is this a high-rise luxury condo? Yes, it is. I thought we might as well. He probably didn't expect me to choose a high-rise. Although surprised, his eyes sparkled like a child who had just received a new toy. Mom will definitely be happy with this. I hope so. With this, a new life, including my mother-in-law, was about to begin, filled with a little anxiety and great anticipation. However, I would soon realize that it was a mistake as soon as we started living with her. Sandra, thanks for letting me stay here. This place is amazing. Oh, it's no big deal. I just did what anyone would do. Everything was fine for a while, but 3 months later, my mother-in-law's behavior suddenly changed a lot. Sorry, could you clean my room? My back hurts. I'm sorry, Mom, I have to work now. Then my mother-in-law said something completely different from her usual kindness. Work? You just stay in your room all day while Robert does all the housework, don't you? Robert and I decided that together. No more excuses. Just do it now, please. I didn't understand why she was acting so differently. All I knew then was that not doing what she asked would only cause more problems, so I cleaned the room thoroughly as she wanted. I'll be in the living room. Let me know when you're done. She didn't help at all and just relaxed in comfort. Why did I have to do this? I felt frustrated. I'm finished. At last, can't you clean a bit faster? I'm sorry. Well, okay then. Please make sure to do it regularly from now on. In the end, my mother-in-law went back to her room without thanking me. I was angry at her demanding attitude, but I kept quiet, fearing more complaints if I resisted. I told my husband about it. My mom? Why would she do that? I'll talk to her. Really? I find it hard to talk back to her. Don't worry, I'll handle it. His reassurance made me feel better. True enough, from the next day onwards, my mother-in-law stopped being so harsh with me. I thought I could now concentrate on work as usual until a week later when I returned home from a meeting. I'm back. When I walked in, I noticed unfamiliar shoes by the door. As I approached the living room, I overheard voices. "Hey, where's Sandra today?" "Oh, she's at a meeting. It's amazing though. She's become a successful cartoon artist at her age." "Yeah, it's impressive. Why do you sound so proud?" It was Robert's sister, Christina, who was visiting. Just as I was about to enter the room, I heard more of their conversation. "By the way, Mom, you've been quieter lately." "Oh yes, it's more amusing to knock her down when she feels secure, isn't it? And Robert, you agree, right?" "Well, if she can't work anymore, it would be a problem, right? Sandra is the one bringing in money for us after all." "Oh right." I stood there, stunned not only by what was said, but by the realization that my husband and mother-in-law were plotting something together. From then on, life became unbearable. "Did you discuss that thing? About work?" "I didn't think it needed to be brought up. You always do this." "What? What are you talking about?" Christina asked innocently, clearly unaware of the conversation's subject. I was also clueless and eager to hear Robert's explanation. "Well, it couldn't be helped. Actually, the company I was running went bankrupt shortly after we got married." "What? You never mentioned that. That's terrible," Christina exclaimed. "I've been through a lot, but I was lucky. I never expected that when I suggested living with Mom, Sandra would opt for such an upscale condo." When Robert admitted this to me, instead of surprise, I felt a surge of anger because I realized I had been deceived. Knowing he had hidden this and acted normal made me feel sick to my stomach. At that moment, I regretted everything deeply. If only I hadn't ignored the signs of change in my husband. But I couldn't dwell on regrets forever, and I started considering when to leave. "Maybe it's time," Robert remarked. "Time for what?" Christina asked. "Well, that's for another time," Robert replied casually. Unable to listen any longer, I burst through the door. They were shocked, clearly not expecting me to return. "What's going on?" I demanded. Seeing my husband and mother-in-law flustered, I almost laughed but held it back. "You startled me. If you were back, you should have said something," Robert stammered. "I did say I'm home, but maybe you were too caught up in your conversation," I retorted. "Well, never mind. Sandra, come sit here. Let's have some coffee together." "Yes, thank you," I replied politely, then engaged in meaningless conversation. It felt like it had been ages since I'd endured such dullness. After about an hour, Christina announced she was leaving. I should head home now. "You could stay a bit longer." "I'd like to, but I have plans after this." "Well, if that's the case, I understand. Let me walk you out part of the way." Christina probably sensed my feelings towards Robert and his mother. Maybe that's why she wanted to get away from the situation. As Christina was leaving, I stopped her. "Thanks for coming today. Did you have a good time?" Yes," Christina replied nervously, as if fearing criticism. Seeing her uneasy expression, I decided it was best to give her a heads up. "I wanted to tell you something, Christina. You shouldn't trust them too much." "What do you mean?" "About what we talked about earlier?" Christina's expression turned pale as she seemed to grasp that my husband and mother-in-law were the ones I was warning her about. I understand. See you around." From then on, as far as I know, Christina never visited us again. My mind was consumed with thoughts of how to exact revenge on them. One day, as part of my routine, I checked the mailbox and found a letter addressed to Robert. The moment I saw it, I couldn't help but laugh, thinking it might be useful. "I'm heading to work. Have a good day." How insincere. Curious about where he was really going, I decided to follow him. I had observed as he idled in a park for a while before heading to a casino. I took photos to have evidence for later use. He was unemployed and yet engaged in activities like this. "Who made this awful meal?" My mother-in-law's criticism had started again, likely sparked by our earlier conversation. I had been pondering ways to retaliate against her. "I made it. Since Robert doesn't cook and no one else could have, it had to be me." "How dare you serve something like this? You didn't put poison in it, did you? Clean this up." Her words were harsh, almost refreshing. I was angry, but that wasn't my main concern. Unable to come up with a plan on my own, I decided to call my mother. I was nervous about her reaction, but getting back at my husband and mother-in-law was more important. "Hello, Mom." You sound upset. What's wrong? Actually, I proceeded to tell my mother everything that had been happening. I had expected her to be critical, but instead she was sympathetic. So that's what's been going on. You've been through a lot. Her words brought tears to my eyes. But what should I do now? From what you've told me, the condo is in your name, right? Yes, but... And it seems they both like living there. Why not just sell it? Sell it? The idea hadn't occurred to me. My mother's suggestion struck a chord. I started imagining how my husband and mother-in-law would react to losing their home. Life would certainly become challenging for my unemployed husband and mother-in-law. It's actually a good idea, isn't it? It sure is, but it's amazing how you can say that with a laugh. Well, it's your decision, Sandra. Just know that we're here for you. Yeah, hearing you say that gives me more strength. Feel free to reach out anytime. I couldn't stop thinking about my mother's advice. One evening after dinner and cleaning up, Robert said he needed to talk. Following his instructions, I sat down on the sofa where both Robert and my mother-in-law were smirking. I had a sinking feeling about this. So what's this talk about? I asked cautiously. My mother-in-law began, "You're no longer needed here, so please leave." Why would you say that after everything? This house is. She interrupted me sharply, ignoring my frustration. Enough. I'm going to live here with Christina and the others. Why with Christina and the others? I asked, recalling the conversation they had at home that day. It seemed this was the fun they had planned. Robert then added, "Why the surprised look? Your role here is finished. Thanks for everything up to now." Are you serious? I stared directly at him, my emotions overwhelming me. Fine, if you want me to leave, we can get divorced. Let's get it over with. Upon hearing my words, I made my decision. Robert, being unemployed, seemed oblivious to the consequences of divorce. What a disappointment. I wanted to leave that place as soon as possible, and I had prepared for this moment. Fine, if that's how it is, I'll leave. Leave right now? Fine. I'd be thrilled not to see your face again, Robert sneered. They both wore the most sinister smiles I had ever seen. There was no reason to hold back anymore against such a husband and mother-in-law. I wanted to make them feel the consequences right away. Packing only the essentials, I walked out of the house. They watched me leave, but I felt no sadness or regret. Since we're getting divorced anyway, you handle the divorce papers. I'm not worried about this condo. You can take care of it, I said calmly. Without waiting for their response, I walked away without looking back. They could say whatever they wanted. For now, I decided to return to my parents' home. I'm on my way home. So, you've made your decision? Yes, I might be a bit of a burden for a while. Your father and I are here for you. Take your time coming back. At home, my parents welcomed me with unchanged warmth. Seeing their faces, I felt a profound sense of relief. Welcome back. I'm home. It's been a while since you've been here. Take it easy today. Thank you. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in a long while. The next day, I wasted no time. I prepared the divorce papers and headed straight to the real estate agent. It was better to sell the condo than to leave it for my husband and mother-in-law, who had no income and would struggle without a home. This condo is in demand. We should find a buyer quickly. That's good to hear. Please take care of it. Consider it done. A month later, the real estate agent informed me that a buyer was interested in the condo. My ex-husband and mother-in-law were still living there, and during that month, I had successfully finalized the divorce. They were now strangers to me, and I eagerly anticipated meeting these two oblivious individuals. The potential buyer wants to view the property soon. Got it. Can I be there for the showing? That would be very helpful. Please join us. The day of the showing finally arrived. As I opened the front door, Robert burst out. Hey, who let you in? Who are you people? Apparently he hadn't noticed me, so I stepped forward. Long time no see. Huh? Why are you here? Funny you should ask. After all, this condo is in my name. What? It seemed he hadn't understood the situation yet. Don't you get it? It means this place isn't yours to claim. That can't be true, he stammered. Then my mother-in-law appeared, which I thought was perfect timing. I decided to confront both of them right then and there. Hey, what are you doing causing a scene in someone's home? Don't just barge in here. I could call the police on you. That should be my line. You two have no right to live here. Talking nonsense won't help you. This place belongs to us. I sighed at their stubbornness. Could you please leave this house immediately? You're disrupting the viewing. Viewing? Why would there be a viewing? Because I've put this condo up for sale. Like I said, I bought this place, so I own it. Robert seemed too furious to comprehend. Even if what you're saying is true, where are we supposed to live? Why don't you go back to your parents' house? We tore down that old house. Oh, that's unfortunate. Stop joking. Robert tried to grab me. Fortunately, I dodged quickly, and he stumbled and fell dramatically. Everyone except my mother-in-law burst into laughter at his fall. If you don't want me to call the police for trespassing, please leave. You're in the way. I looked down at him as I spoke. When I saw his face, he looked like he was on the verge of tears, finally understanding the situation. He then knelt down and begged, but nothing he could do would change my mind. We were wrong. Please forgive us. Mom, apologize to her too. Why should I? Apologizing won't change anything now. Can you just disappear from my sight? I won't ask again. With that, Robert, dragging his mother by the hand, fled like a defeated animal. Watching them leave like that brought an unexpected sense of relief. The viewing proceeded smoothly and the sale was finalized. I informed them both they needed to remove any remaining belongings from the condo. That was my final act of leniency. Later, I received a call from Christina. What's going on, Christina? It's about my mom and what happened. Curious about their situation, since I hadn't kept track of them, I listened attentively. It seems they're living in a tiny one-room apartment now. See, I warned you not to trust them. I've definitely learned that lesson from this experience. It turned out Christina had taken my advice and refused any further involvement with them, which is why she wasn't present during the viewing. From now on, it's best to keep your distance from them, I advised. Yes, Christina agreed, determined to avoid any more entanglements with those two. However, not long after, Robert reached out to me again. Can you lend me some money? Just a little. That's your own fault for gambling and accumulating debt. I found debt collection letters addressed to you by chance. And I also had someone follow you when you lied about having a job and went out. I'm working seriously now, but I still have debts, and it's hard to make ends meet. That's not my problem. Oh, and could you pass a message to your mother? Tell her she got what she deserved. I hung up immediately, realizing they would likely face more difficult times ahead. Reflecting on these events, I considered turning this experience into a comic for my next project. It could make for an intriguing story. I'm not scared of threats from a housewife like you who doesn't work and has no parents. You can't do anything with a pile of trash because it's just garbage. Now I understand how you feel. I'm moving out of this house, so now you'll be homeless. Good luck with that. This is a good chance for Larry to leave too. Let's team up to clean up the mess and get rid of the trash. They went to Larry's room and told him to pack up and leave. I was planning to leave on my own, but I didn't expect Larry to get kicked out too. My name is Lauren. I'm 29 years old and I'm a housewife. I recently married a man named David, who's 33 years old, 4 years older than me. At first, I thought he was mature and calm like an older man, especially because he often talked about his mother. I thought he was a good man who cared about his family. But after we got married, I saw my husband's true personality. On our wedding day, my mother-in-law was really kind to me, and I thought we would have a happy marriage. After we got married, my husband suggested we live with his mom because his dad had passed away a few years before. He said he wanted to take care of his mom. I trusted my mother-in-law, so I agreed to move in with her. But everything changed as soon as we got married. They started telling me things like, "Hurry up, Lauren, bring me tea, and clean the bathroom and toilet quickly." My mother-in-law would yell at me and give me orders like that. Maybe she wanted to scare me, or maybe it was because of her age. She'd call me loudly and make me do all sorts of chores. The biggest surprise was discovering I had a roommate no one had told me about. One morning, I was shocked to find a man I didn't know in the kitchen. I stood there wondering who he was. He noticed me and said, "I'm Larry, David's younger brother." He introduced himself. I had no idea David had a brother, let alone one who lived with us. Larry is 30 years old, the same age as me. I went to my mother-in-law and asked her to introduce me to my brother-in-law. She replied, "Oh, you mean Larry? Don't worry about him. He's like a reclusive ghost." I was taken aback. How could she dismiss her own son like that? She called him a ghost and said she was content with just David. She described Larry as a useless hermit who only went out for shopping and otherwise stayed at home. Her words shocked me. I felt let down by my mother-in-law and couldn't believe how much she had changed since our wedding. It was heartbreaking to see her treat her own son unfairly. Being an only child with no siblings, I couldn't relate to having a brother. If my own mother said such things about me or ignored me, I would be devastated. My parents have passed away, and I envy families who are alive and close-knit. I had hoped that at least parents and children could have good relationships. I asked my husband about Larry when he came home from work. I hoped maybe the brothers could get along, but my husband was distant. He said, "Just leave him be, pretend he's not there. He won't bother you." He said it like it didn't matter, as if he had forgotten to mention it. I was disappointed to hear him refer to his own brother as a ghost. My husband seemed disconnected from his family, just tied to his mother. After finishing my chores for the day, I went upstairs, feeling regretful about my marriage. That's when I ran into Larry, who was heading to the bathroom. "You're married to my brother, aren't you?" Larry said to me. "Yeah, what's wrong?" I replied. "I'm sorry, forget I said anything. But I don't say things lightly. You should consider leaving," he said. "What?" I asked, confused. "I'm sorry, but I think you should get a divorce," he said. I felt offended and confused by how my husband and mother-in-law were behaving. I married my husband because I loved him, so it was shocking that Larry would suggest divorce after just one day. "It's none of your business. I can handle it," I told him. "I'm sorry about that. I tend to be blunt." Larry apologized, bowing his head. His apology seemed sincere, but I wasn't sure. Maybe he was trying to be polite or genuinely concerned. While I was thinking about this, Larry excused himself and went to his room. My mother-in-law and husband described Larry as a strange recluse, but to me, he seemed like a decent person who deserved respect. The next morning, as I set breakfast on the table, Larry came down to get a drink. "Good morning, Larry. Why don't you join us for breakfast?" I offered. "Good morning, Lauren. Thank you for inviting me," Larry replied, casting a glance at his mother. "I'm not eating breakfast with him. Just get the breakfast done," she yelled at me. "It's okay," Larry said quickly and returned to his room. I wanted to apologize for my strong words from yesterday, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. "Hey, all you need to do is the housework. Don't do anything unnecessary, okay?" My mother-in-law gave me a stern glare. I was taken aback by her harsh tone. As the new bride, I hadn't expected to be treated like this. My husband's behavior towards me also changed drastically. "What the heck? Curry again today? You should have told me beforehand," he shouted. "I already had curry for lunch. Why didn't you call me to say you wanted something else?" I stayed quiet. He kept yelling, "You're not even apologizing. Who do you think you are? Your job is to do the housework, so make sure you understand that." I was shocked and remained silent. David didn't love me. He just wanted a housekeeper. It's awful. How could he be so cruel? I whispered to myself in disbelief. Their calm voices showed they didn't care about me. They just wanted to make themselves comfortable. They were using me. Seeing them laughing and watching TV in the living room, I quietly went upstairs. As soon as I reached my room, tears started streaming down my face. Then, a gentle hand offered me a handkerchief. "I still think you should leave," said a familiar voice. I looked up, and it was Larry. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," I managed to say between sobs. I wiped my tears quickly. "I'm sorry I used your handkerchief." "No, I gave it to you because I wanted you to use it," Larry replied kindly. I overheard what my brother and mother said. "I knew it. They're the worst," he continued. When I asked Larry what he meant by "I knew it," he confided that he had been in a similar situation before. Curious, I pressed for details. Larry explained that David had promised to marry another woman previously, but just like with me, his mother and David's mistreatment had driven her away shortly before the wedding. Hearing Larry's story brought some relief, showing me that my husband and mother-in-law had acted nice only to avoid scaring away the bride before marriage. I felt trapped and hopeless. How could I have trusted them? But I had no other options. As just a housewife, I couldn't get a part-time job, move out, or rent another place. I didn't know what to do except cry. Then Larry suggested, "If we keep talking here, it might raise suspicions. Let's meet at a coffee shop next time, if you'd like." He handed me a piece of paper with his contact information and went back to his room. Determined to leave this house, I knew my struggle for survival was just beginning. I told my mother-in-law I was going to the city office and then to the supermarket. She warned me not to leave any chores undone. So I made sure everything was perfect before leaving. She grumbled about not accepting any excuses if I was late for dinner. Pretending to agree, I headed to the coffee shop where Larry and I had arranged to meet. I told Larry that my parents had passed away, so I couldn't rely on them anymore. I had canceled the house I was renting and quit my job. I told him I needed to start all over again. It's tough to move out of the house in this situation, especially with the work that keeps me tied up with my mother-in-law and husband from early in the morning until late at night. Larry then asked me, "Lauren, can you draw?" "Huh? What do you mean?" I replied, confused. "Oh, I see, so can you?" "Yes, well, I went to art school before," I said. "Really? That's great," he exclaimed. "Yes, but how?" I asked. "Just in time, another manga artist is looking for an assistant. You can do it remotely," Larry said. "But I don't have a computer right now," I responded. "I'll lend you my computer that I'm not using right now," Larry said kindly. "Really? Thank you so much. But why do you have an extra computer? What do you do for a living?" I asked curiously. "That's nice of you to ask. You don't think I'm just a recluse, did you?" No, you speak politely and look well put together, so I don't think that at all." "Do you work from home?" I replied. "Yes, actually, I'm an engineer," Larry said. "An engineer? I had no idea. I didn't realize you were a business owner," I exclaimed. "Yes, I used to work for a company, but now I have my own business. Running things independently works better for me. We also have web designers on staff. It's a small team, so we handle everything remotely," he explained. "I see, that explains why you're always at home. But your mother and David said you're just idle at home. Haven't you told them the truth?" I asked. "I don't see any benefit in telling those two," Larry replied. "Fair enough. But if you're such a capable manager, why don't you leave that house?" I wondered. Then, for the first time, Larry shared his thoughts with me. "Let's not focus on me. I need to introduce you to the manga artist," he said. Larry immediately made a phone call, and soon a remote interview was scheduled for me. I was set to interview with a manga artist on Wednesday. My mother-in-law usually had lessons during that time, followed by outings with other participants, so I could manage the remote interview then. It seemed I made a good impression because I was hired on the spot. They agreed to send the hiring documents addressed to Larry, considering my situation. Next, we needed to find a place for me to stay. "I have a friend who works at a real estate agency. He can help you find a good deal," Larry said. "Who is this guy?" "He seems to have connections," I remarked. Our search for a new place went smoothly, and we signed a lease for a place that suited my needs. Just when things were starting to fall into place, I had an argument with my husband one day. "Hey, where's dinner?" My husband woke me up while I was sleeping in our bedroom. He seemed a bit drunk, like he had just come home from drinking. "Dinner? It's midnight. Besides, you said you didn't want to eat because you were going out for drinks," I replied. "Shut up. The king is home, and you don't even get up to greet him. And now you say you didn't make dinner. You're a useless wife." His words made me really angry. "Do you have any idea how hard I've been working with your mother for you? How can you act so superior to me?" I shot back. "That's because you're my wife. A wife should support her husband, and your job is to take care of the house. If you can't do your chores, don't argue with me. A wife who can't handle the housework is worthless," my husband said, just as I heard the door open. My mother-in-law left in an awkward way. "You're just like trash." "Larry is also trash, and this place looks like a dump," my husband sneered, with my mother-in-law agreeing. "Yes, let's get rid of this oversized trash," he added. "What did you just say?" So I asked him directly. He opened a drawer and pulled out a piece of paper. "This is what I mean. It's divorce papers. You're no longer useful to me. I'm going to find another wife who can replace you. That's why I'm divorcing you. Get out of my house, you disgrace. You think a wife is just a servant. The best wife is one who acts like a housekeeper. You shouldn't speak like that. One day, you might regret it," I replied calmly. "What are you going to do about it?" "I'm not scared of any threats from a housewife like you, with no job and no parents," he laughed. My husband and mother-in-law joined in. "Exactly, you're useless. You can't do anything about it because you're just trash. Well, now I understand how you truly feel. I'm leaving this house. I said that and signed the divorce papers. Then, I left. I packed my things, placing the divorce papers in my bag. My mother-in-law and husband watched with smirks on their faces. Now you're homeless. What are you going to do? It's none of our concern anymore. Good luck, homeless lady. Oh, and as for Larry, it's a good opportunity for him to leave too. Yeah, let's clean house and make this place bigger and more comfortable once he's gone. My husband and mother-in-law were already discussing their plans after kicking us out. Then they went to Larry's room and told him to pack his things and leave. I had already decided to leave, but I hadn't expected them to kick out Larry too. I felt some regret for letting my emotions get the best of me and fighting with my husband. I'm sorry, Larry. This is my fault, I said. No need to apologize, Larry replied. I've realized I can't live with him anymore. Plus, I have other interests. Maybe it's fortunate we had that argument, he smiled. It seemed Larry wasn't upset about leaving, which eased my mind a little. 5 days later, on Wednesday, while my mother-in-law was out of town, Larry and I called a moving company and left. After finishing our move, my mother-in-law called my new place. Don't worry, we're already gone, I assured her. Larry came with you, right? She asked. Yes, we moved out together. I'm relieved I won't have to see you two anymore, she said happily before hanging up. But what she didn't know was that Larry and I had been planning our revenge. With Larry's help, I managed to move out and start a new life just in time. I received a substantial settlement from my husband in the divorce. Larry had recorded what my husband and mother-in-law said during our fight, which was considered harassment and helped prove their fault in the divorce. This enabled me to claim a significant amount of money as retribution against my husband. Larry's friend, a lawyer, assisted me in securing alimony. My husband was shocked but ultimately accepted the settlement. I was deeply grateful to Larry for his support and decided not to dwell on it further. A few days later, I received numerous phone calls from my ex-mother-in-law. It felt like a nightmare come true. Realizing I had forgotten to block her number, I reluctantly answered the phone. Lauren, where are you? She demanded. There's no way I'm telling you that. We're strangers now, I replied firmly. Please don't say that, she pleaded. I'm calling because, where is Larry? She asked. Huh? Why are you asking about Larry? I responded. I've been trying to reach him, but I can't get in touch anymore, she explained. That's too bad. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to you anymore, I retorted, trying to provoke her. Then someone else grabbed the phone. Don't play games. You moved out together. You must know where he is, they insisted. You're all ridiculous. I knew exactly where Larry was, but I wasn't about to tell them. I honestly don't know. You'll have to find him on your own, I replied. Where are you anyway? You have no home, job, or place to go. If you're willing to beg, maybe I'll let you return, but only as my housekeeper, she sneered. I'm not coming back to you. I have a job and a place to live. I'm moving on, I shot back. That's a lie, she yelled. My ex-husband was shocked, not knowing I could settle everything so quickly. I didn't bother correcting him. Please do not contact me again. If you call or come near me, I'll call the police, I declared firmly, hanging up. I promptly blocked my ex-mother-in-law's number, having already blocked my ex-husband's. They seemed panicked, realizing something important. They thought my father-in-law had left them a large inheritance, but it turned out that Larry had been regularly sending money to his mother's account. My mother-in-law had always seen Larry as lazy and without a job, so she couldn't believe it when the bank stopped the monthly transfers after he was kicked out. It was only then that they realized who had been supporting them financially, but by that point, it was too late. Larry had already cut ties with his mother and brother. My ex-husband couldn't afford alimony without the money from Larry, and my ex-mother-in-law relied on those monthly transfers. Now that the money had stopped, she was facing financial trouble. They both got what they deserved, and I don't feel sorry for them at all. By the way, Larry bought a nice apartment in New York and is living comfortably there. Why was he so well off? Why did he send money to his parents all those years? It was because he made a promise to his father. Unlike his mother, Larry's father loved him deeply. Despite the mistreatment from his mother and brother, Larry stayed true to his father's wishes. His father had once told Larry, even if you don't always get along with your mother and brother, they're still family to me. Please take care of them after I'm gone. Honoring this promise, despite facing mistreatment, Larry quietly sent money to support his mother and brother. It's heartbreaking that they kicked out such a kind-hearted person like Larry without knowing the truth. I met Larry once after we moved out. He explained his commitment to his father's wishes, and I fully understood and respected his decision. He was my savior after the betrayal by my husband, and I consider him a significant person in my life. I wish him all the happiness. 2 years later, Larry proposed to me. He asked for my hand in marriage, but that's a story for another time. It's unfortunate how someone kind can change so drastically after marriage. It's like a marriage scam, isn't it? Fortunately, my brother-in-law is a dependable person, and now I'm happily married to him. Despite the challenges, I've found peace and happiness. I hope these happy days continue. Thank you for following along until the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel.